Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about paywall articles. Specifically, these magazines that put out articles that you have to pay to either get the deck list or you have to pay to get the article in general. Now, there's nothing wrong with having people pay for your content. I understand that. Netflix, Hulu, all those sites do that all the time. That is perfectly understandable. My problem with it is the price point and the value. So when I click on an article to read it, I want to be able to read the article. I don't really want to have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for any article that you find on any newspaper. You don't have to pay for any like Magic the Gathering, anything like that. There's no, if I want to know something about it, all I have to do is look it up. And the same way goes for these deck lists and stuff that people put out in these articles. If I want to find that deck list, all I have to do is get on YouTube and someone has already put it on there for me to find. And if not, it's not that hard to figure out on your own. So for me, it's the price point, it's the amount of content you get, and it's the amount of actual deck list and testing that went into these decks to figure out what you want. So for me, anything over $1 or $2 a month is just too expensive. So I can pay $7, $6 with Hulu Plus or Disney Plus and get all the movies and TV shows I could watch for the rest of my life. So why would I pay, $8 or $6 or $5 a month for a subscription to a magazine where I'm going to get maybe 2 articles a week on decks that have either one already been established as good decks, or they're new decks that they're not actually going to play in a tournament themselves. So I've seen a lot of people put out these deck lists like Reshiram, saying it's going to be real good and expanded, and they might have a point there, but they're not actually playing those decks when it comes to expanded as it is, because Guardian just stomps it into the ground. But they put out these deck lists anyways, and there's not been no real big tournaments to play at those, no expanded regionals or anything like that since Reshiram has come out. So there's no way for them to actually know if it's going to do well in the meta. Now sure, they've tested against it, they've played Zorotoad against it, they've played all these decks, Whale Lord, all that, they've played it all against it, and maybe it's done well in their testing, but testing in real life are two different things, especially if it's PTCG Go testing versus real life, deck testing. Those are two completely different ball games. So the value you get for these articles isn't necessarily going to be consistent with the amount of money that you are paying for it. So if I put out $8 and I get this deck list had better work for me. But what if I find inconsistencies in it later down the road? Is it the deck creator's fault? No, because maybe he knows how to play it that way and I just don't. But the amount of money I paid for that deck list is just not conducive to me having a better and more experienced and fun time playing the game. But for me, it's mainly about content versus what you actually get. Back to the tested part, you may test it and you can test it all you want, and if you're only playing in your group of friends or with your team, you are not going to get the best amount of value out of that testing. Testing is good, but the real deck creators, the real deck evolution comes from actually playing those cards in a tournament. Look at Tord's Ability Zard deck from Worlds. It has evolved so much since Worlds that it's not even hardly the same deck anymore. There's people playing it without Reshi Zard, there's people playing it with 2 Heat Train GXs. There's people playing it in a whole bunch of different ways, and no longer is I almost called it Reshi Tord. Tord Reckliv's deck, it is no longer the high-end deck that it was when it came out in Worlds. So that's the same problem I have with the decks coming out of these paywall articles. Yes, they're good. Yes, they've put a lot of time into it and we all appreciate that. But is it the best? Probably not, because there's a million people in the world and everybody has their own twist on things that may be better than yours. And also, you haven't actually tested it in real world tournaments and experiences. If you have, that's great, and I'm not harping on you for doing these things and selling these things. What I am saying is it's a little bit too expensive. You can't expect me to pay that much a month for a deck list that I can literally find on anybody else's website, anybody else's YouTube channel, unless you have some weird card that nobody's ever seen, and you don't because Pokemon doesn't create it, then there's nothing out there that I couldn't find on my own in a different channel or a different way. So that's the problem I have with paywalls. That's my thoughts on the subject. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.